Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. On behalf of the Axelar International team of the Chamber of Commerce of Metropolitan Montreal, we'd like to welcome you to this third Business in Tandem session in collaboration with the City of Montreal, which started with the City of Lyon and the clean tech industry, then Toronto and FinTech. And now for the third edition, we are now with the City of San Antonio and covering the cybersecurity industry. Let's take a moment to thank our partners, starting with the City of Montreal, in association with the City of San Antonio and their Passport San Antonio initiative, as well as the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce and their Cybersecurity Council, the Quebec Government Office in Houston, INSEC-M and CyberÉco, as well as the Economic Development Agency of Canada for the regions of Quebec, for its ongoing support of World Trade Center Montreal's activities. As well, I would like to underline the help of UTSA National Security Collaboration Center, the University of Texas at San Antonio, IP Secure, and the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. I now welcome our MC, Nicolas Duguay, Director of Markets Development at INSEC-M, to take the floor.
Thanks, Dina. So hi, everyone. So welcome to this latest webinar of the Business in Tandem series. So today, main topic, as Dina just said, is to address an overview of the cybersecurity and business opportunities between companies of San Antonio and Montreal. So my name is Nicolas Duguay, and I'm the Market Development Director at INSEC-M, the Canadian Cybersecurity Cluster. So I am pleased to animate this webinar with you today. So in the next hour and a half, we're going to have the pleasure to know more about the Montreal and the San Antonio cybersecurity ecosystem. The first segment of this webinar will allow you to listen to short overviews of both cities. Then we're going to go deeper into cybersecurity with presentation by representative of both ecosystems. 4 private companies, 3 from Montreal and 1 from San Antonio, will also be with us to share more info about their strategies at doing business in these cities. The last segment of the webinar is aimed at the research and higher education activities present in both areas. A Q&A period will then launch, followed by a networking session for those of you who wish to exchange more informally with the participant and speaker. Talking about Q&A, if you have any question for our panelists, they will be addressed at the end. You can write them in the Q&A box located at the bottom center of your screen. Make sure you indicate who you're asking your question to. As you may already discover, I'm a French speaker, so please don't hesitate to ask your question in French if you wish, and I'll be happy to translate them in English if you need. Vous pouvez donc poser vos questions en français si vous le désirez. Je me ferai un plaisir, je serai content de faire la traduction pour vous. In addition, if you would like to watch this webinar again, we will make the recording available at the Chamber of Commerce of Metropolitan Montreal website, as well as their YouTube page. Also, the PowerPoint will be shared with you tomorrow in a follow-up email. Oh, and before I forget, about the networking session at the end, if you wish to participate at the activities, the link to access this session is at the Zoom email invitation as well. So I will now give the floor to Véronique Doucet, Director of Economic Development Department for the City of Montreal. Véronique, the floor is completely yours.
Merci, Nicolas. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be with you today for the Business in Tandem event series. As Dina introduced the activity of today, it's a joint initiative with our partner of the Chamber of Commerce of Metropolitan Montreal, and also with our partners from the City of San Antonio and the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, with whom we have excellent relationship, of course, obviously. I would like to take also the opportunity to extend my greeting to my counterpart from the City of San Antonio, Mrs. Alex Lopez. So it's a pleasure, a great pleasure to be with you this morning. Very grateful for that. Our 2 cities are building promising businesses ties for 2 years, because you came here in Montreal 2 years ago with businesses and representative from the City of San Antonio. And during that time, we developed the interests we had in common. So there's a lot of things that led us to the activities of today. And let me also highlight the fact that Montreal and San Antonio are both UNESCO city networks. So we're very proud of that. And we have a lot, in fact, that we can work on. For today, the business in tandem will focus on the key industry of our two cities, the cybersécurité sector. So all the partners brought for you together the key players, and I would say the best key players in the industry, to introduce you to their ecosystem and present business and collaboration opportunities for our two cities. So you're in very good hand this morning. I hope you'll enjoy and benefit from the activity of this morning. In a few moments also, you have a presentation that will be done by my colleague Valerie Poulain that is with us this morning, and she'll give you a quick overview of our economy, of Montreal economy, that is very diverse and also very strong for high tech and ICT. So I'm quite sure that you'll find opportunities to work on for the next years to come. I would like to thank also those that are involved in the presentation of this event. So the panelists for both of our cities, the City of San Antonio, the Quebec office in Houston, the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce also, and of course, the Chamber of Commerce Metropolitan Montreal, with whom it wouldn't be possible to have these activities without them. So I would also like to notice the presence of Montreal International, sorry, that is our investment attraction agency that is also with us this morning. So just to give a bit of context of the activity of this morning, the Business in Tandem initiative has been launched in our recovery plan that is called A Boost for Our Metropolis Acting Now. The last year we've been launching quite a lot of things, but the fact that we need to get to the recovery of our economy is one of the main issue. And we know that it's quite hard to do some activities international or interprovincial. So we developed that concept that we're in this morning, the activity of this morning, to give you a hand with those type of development activities that you have to do with your business. So we know that you're facing major constraint doing those things. So in sum, I wish you a very pleasant and productive event, and I invite you to register to the B2B meetings that are organized for you by the Chamber of Commerce Metropolitan Montreal. And I'm sure that you'll benefit a lot from those activities. So make sure that you go and inscribe yourself at the end of the presentation that you have this morning. So I hope that we'll work again then the next month and years to come. And I'm sure that everybody this morning will give you a good content to make sure that you can now take in hands the activities that we have to do together. So have a good one today, a good activity for everybody. And I pass by the mic now to Nicolas Go again, or to Alex?
No, to Alex, please.
So sorry, so Alex, it's your turn.
Thank you, Veronique. Good morning, buongiorno, o como decimos en San Antonio, buenos días. I'm honored by the invitation to join this important collaborative effort between Montreal and San Antonio. The more I learn about Montreal, the more I appreciate the similarities between our two cities. Our interest in cultural heritage, our bilingualism, our love for food. I also think that the synergies that we have in some of our target industries, especially in aerospace and life sciences and tourism, and most importantly today in cybersecurity. With the largest presence of cybersecurity assets outside of the Washington, D.C. and Maryland region, San Antonio is positioned to grow this sector. There are excellent collaborations happening now between industry and government and higher education that have elevated our profile to national and international levels. Our colleague from the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation, Sarah Sanchez, will elaborate more on our economic profile in just a few minutes. And Jeff Fair, Rich Valdez, and General Guy Walsh will speak to our strengths in cybersecurity. I appreciate all of today's diverse and knowledgeable panelists in both time zones. And I would like to especially thank the Chamber of Commerce of Montreal and the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce for hosting and supporting this effort in collaboration with the City of Montreal, the Cybersecurity Council of San Antonio, and the National Security Collaboration Center. So without further delay, I'll pass it on to Sarah Sanchez, Executive Vice President of the Global Business Development at the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation, to provide a quick overview of our community. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. My name is Sarah Sanchez. I'm the Executive Vice President for Economic Development with the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. I've been asked to provide you this morning with a quick overview of our economy. So I'll make this fast, and don't worry, you don't have to take notes. There is no pop quiz at the end, but we'll go ahead and proceed to the next slide. And basically what I want to highlight for you is our key industries, our population and our growth, and our central location. So to start, we represent the San Antonio region, which is located in South Central Texas. This is a population of about 2.5 million people. So our strength is really in our growth and momentum, with a median age resident of 34 years old. And as we are very close to Mexico, our population is very diverse. We are 55% Hispanic, primarily Mexican origin, and 42% bilingual, English and Spanish. So I was trying to speak French there for a second. But our key industries include manufacturing, healthcare, bioscience, the military, we're known as Military City USA, as well as tourism and hospitality, and then IT and cybersecurity. Moving on to the next slide, we'll dive a little bit deeper into these different industries. Now, you'll see cybersecurity and tech listed here. I'm not going to go into detail because our next speakers are going to really talk about our strengths in cybersecurity and tech. But let me focus on bioscience and manufacturing. And you may wonder, what does that have to do with cybersecurity? What I'd like to do is challenge you and ask you to think about all the research and development happening here in San Antonio. Texas Biomedical Foundation does research on infectious diseases, and a lot of that is very confidential. They represent clients from all over the world. So think about how do you protect that data? How do you protect that infrastructure, right? And manufacturing too as well is another key strength of San Antonio. Our strength there is in aerospace, as was just mentioned, food and beverage manufacturing, and automotive. We have companies like Toyota that manufactures the Tacoma and Tundra pickup truck. Navistar is also building a plant here, and then Tesla just up the road. But when you look at manufacturing and the connectivity or the Internet of Things, what are the vulnerabilities there? And what can your products and services do to protect these industries as they're connected to the internet? So I'm going to stop there, but just wanted to quickly highlight our industries, and just know that here in San Antonio, our population's diverse, our industries are diverse. And while we're known for all our tourism, we're also a great place to do business, and we hope to see you here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. That's very interesting to discover San Antonio with you this morning. So I'd like now to introduce you to our next speaker, Valerie Poulain, Director, Economic Intelligence and International Outreach for the City of Montreal. So Valerie, you can go on.
Merci, Nicolas. Bonjour. Hi, everyone. Very pleased to be here with you this morning. I'll try to be as pertinent and quick as my colleagues. So yeah, a quick presentation of Montreal. Montreal, we're obviously open for business, but also open for partnership with San Antonio. Quickly, what we do in the Economic Development Department, we mainly focus on optimizing the economic planning of the territory. We facilitate investment projects, support startups, and promote entrepreneurship. We also explore economic development from a very green, responsible, inclusive, and innovative point of view. And in that sense, our partnership with the university is quite important for research and innovation. And lately, we've been developing tools to value data and produce intelligence to have better decision-making process. Next slide, please. Here, oh, sorry, next slide again. Thank you. What you should focus on here on the slide is, even though the island of Montreal represents 25% of the province population and 25% of Quebec's job, it does represent 35% of the province GDP, making Montreal the economic engine of Quebec. Montreal downtown itself accounts for 10% of the GDP, of the province GDP, and this is why we focus and we put a lot of energy for the recovery plan of downtown. Moving to the next slide. As San Antonio, Montreal is an open and cosmopolitan city, we are proud to be bilingual, and it's been said before, and we celebrate diversity and richness of the cosmopolitan heritage here in Montreal also. Moving forward, we see that Montreal is a world leader in high value added sectors. The city actually benefits from a diversified economic and industrial landscape, and we can leverage a critical mass of activities in high value added and advanced sectors like artificial intelligence, aerospace and life sciences, and health technology, to name just a few. In each of those sectors, some major companies located in Montreal are contributing to pushing innovation forward. For example, in the visual effects, VFX sector, where Montreal is part of the high-tech major leagues. In the next slide, what we try to demonstrate is a key success factor for companies established in Montreal is the fact that creativity and collaboration are part of Montreal's DNA. A clear illustration of that collaboration spirit is that sectors like aerospace, life sciences, and AI decided to team up in order to tackle common challenges like scarcity of strategic talent, or to achieve common goals like expanding their activities into international markets. Best practices are shared and discussed for the common good of the entire ecosystem. For example, Montreal cross-fertilization of ideas made it possible for CAE, a company recognized as the world leader for flight simulators, to enter successfully the healthcare sector and the field of clinical education. CAE is a great example of this cross-fertilization right now is Montreal. In the next slide, you see that, well, it may be the same for San Antonio, and talent is for sure the main economic development engine in Montreal. So it's a good thing that Montreal is recognized for the quality of its university, and Montreal is actually the hotspot for highly skilled talent, which means that investing in Montreal gives you access to a pool of talent that's fed by a world-class education system comprised of 11 universities and over 60 colleges. Next slide. As I said, talent is an economic engine, and talent follows quality of life, and Montreal is recognized for its quality of life as San Antonio, as I understand by the presentation. Our city is known for its cosmopolitan atmosphere, safety, affordability, love of fine dining, a devotion to the arts. Actually, Montrealers enjoy their high buying power thanks to the affordable rents, generous family allowances, free healthcare, the lowest tuition fees in North America, and inexpensive daycare, which make us attractive for high-tech companies, cybersécurité sector for sure, and looking for great talent. Finally, next slide, we are really looking forward to hear from you since we're open for business and partnerships. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great virtual session.
Thanks, Valerie. There's always a lot to say about Montreal, and I'm pretty sure our guests today won't hesitate to contact you directly or ask you some question at the end of this webinar. We will now enter the second segment of this webinar with this time presentation of both cybersecurity ecosystem. To give you at first a short overview of the Montreal cybersecurity ecosystem, let me introduce you to my boss and friend, that's always help, Antoine Normand, CEO of INSECEM. So Antoine, floor is yours.
Thank you, Nicolas. Good morning, everyone. Like Nicolas said, I'm Antoine Normand. I'm the chair of INSECEM. INSECEM is the Canadian cybersecurity cluster, which comprises about 100 members from all across Canada. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce you to the greater Montreal cybersecurity ecosystem. We can go to the next slide, please. So in short, Montreal, including the North Shore and the South Shore, is a world-class cybersecurity hub. It defines itself by highly qualified talent pool, and it's based on a number of collaboration and synergies between organization and the private sector. Next slide. In terms of world-class cybersecurity, Montreal is home of more than 15 companies that made the Cybersecurity Worldwide 500 list. It's an ecosystem mostly composed of very dynamic, innovative SMEs that invest a lot in research and development. And Montreal cybersecurity companies are already open for business worldwide. They already export a lot in the US. They're present in Europe and elsewhere in the world also. We'll go to the next slide. I mentioned that it's a highly qualified talent pool. So there's in Montreal a world-class researcher in various fields like AI, of course, IoT, critical infrastructure protection, cyber resilience, and more in privacy of data and digital identity. It's home of more than 19,000 highly skilled experts, 3,000 of them at least have one of the most popular cybersecurity certification. 90% of them have a university degree. I could add that probably more than 90% of them are also bilingual. My number is a little different than the one we saw from the city of Montreal earlier, but there's between 14,000 and 16,000 IT students in various programs in IT. The 16,000 university student may comprise the ones that are in the college that we call Cégep in Quebec. There's also 10 research chair and university lab that are directly related to cybersecurity in the various Montreal research centers and universities. Next slide. It's all about collaboration and synergies and investment. That's why the Quebec ecosystem is so open for business with international partners. INSECAM help, again, with various partners to boost the collaboration between the innovators, the operators, and the buyers, so the ones that have cyber requirements. It's billions of dollars that will be invested by the Canadian public sector between now and 2030, both at the local, the provincial, and the federal level. The Canadian government recently announced that they will invest $145 million in the Canadian critical infrastructure. The government of Quebec a few weeks ago announced an investment of $28 million just to support innovation project in cybersecurity. That's funding, that's subsidies that can be brought to an innovation project to fund R&D on top of other government programs that currently exist. The federal government also announced some significant investment in INSECAM to reinforce the cybersecurity of SMEs. That's money that goes towards coaching and consulting to bring the various SMEs in Quebec and in Canada in general to the right level to protect themselves against cyber threats. We also launched very recently the first Cybersecure Canada certification program for Quebec SMEs. So that's funding to help companies reach a norm that is called Cybersecure Canada, which is quite similar to CMMC that the American Defense requires from its contractor. And finally, in 2020, there was the creation of the National Digital Identity Lab that was established as a completely independent infrastructure to boost interoperability and collaboration in cybersecurity and in digital identity. The National Digital Identity Lab already has some collaboration with Homeland Security in the US and with the European Commission also. So that's my wrap up. I hope I fit that in the 6 minutes that was given to me. So back to you, Nicolas.
Yes, that was perfect. Thanks, Antoine. So now let's have some insight from the field, directly from 3 interesting companies from Montreal who have ventured into the American cybersecurity market, each of them deploying their own strategy to penetrate different market segments. So it's really an honor for me to present you what I'm the proudest of my job. So 3 INSECAM members. So let me introduce you to, at first, Peter Karagianis from Coash. Coash is the archetype of the startup project that worked well. From their very beginning in a tech incubator in Quebec City just a few years ago to their actual penetration on the US market, where they currently have a team of 3 account executives, the business of Coash just explodes. Coash is a leader in the emerging field of data risk management. Headquartered in Quebec, Coash supports clients in the US and Canada to protect their most sensitive data. We will also have the pleasure to have with us this morning Patrick Naum from ESI Technology. ESI used to say that data is their DNA. So ESI contribute to business agility and innovation by integrating, connecting, protecting, and managing data to turn it into meaningful and competitive insight for their client. ESI is currently doing business in the USA as Civatry Technology USA Inc., with a focus on securing, virtualizing, and automating SAP for Fortune 100, 500 companies. And then the last but not the least, Patrick Patterson from Carillon. I used to present Carillon as the perfect example of a company that found the perfect niche and managed to develop the expertise to stay on top of that niche. Patrick is the president and chief PKI architect at Carillon Information Security. He spent the last 20 years designing and building scalable I-Trust identity management system. His work includes writing the standards for PKI for the civil air transport industry and participation in the aerospace and defense community building PKI for cross certification with CertiPath. So Patrick, let's start with you. What strategy have you developed to ensure you can access the defense sector, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, a pretty difficult market to penetrate, especially for a non-US company?
So for us, we sort of had a two-pronged strategy. One of which was we took the work we were doing in the civil air transport business, where we were working already with the civil side of Boeing and Airbus, et cetera. And we sort of leveraged those kind of relationships to become part of the standards bodies that were standardizing things like how does the supply chain within the entire aerospace and defense community work. And so by doing that, we actually got a lot of nice inroads into working with folks like Lockheed and Northrop, et cetera, who are the giants of the aerospace industry in the US. On the purely mechanical side of it, what we ended up having to do was we also, as a Canadian company, there were some significant challenges with them being able to place orders with a Canadian company. And so what we did is we spun up an organization called Carillon Federal Services, which is a Delaware corporation that's as a sister company to Carillon. And so all of our US defense and aerospace contracts tend to run through Carillon Federal Services. The body behind doing some of those services still remains Carillon, but Carillon Federal Services, what that gives us is the ability to have US persons, which is the all-important catchword when you're attending defense meetings, and have those people actually go and be able to have discussions with customers, gain access to government facilities, gain access to more restricted sites, et cetera. So by having Carillon Federal Services there with US persons and a team, currently we have 3 people in that particular organization, and their job is to go and work with our US customers and maintain those relationships that way.
Oh, thanks, Patrick. So on your side, from ESI perspective, Patrick, my understanding is that you choose to penetrate the US market by making an acquisition that serves you as it's kind of a penetration vehicle, if I may use that expression. Am I right?
You're correct, Nicolas. Thank you very much. So yeah, our business, we've been in business almost 30 years now. Data was our DNA, and over time we've diversified. Obviously, if you're dealing with data, you want to be able to position yourself as securing that data across the board, which we have out here. But we decided that 3 years ago that we wanted to get into the US market, and by acquiring a company specialized in SAP virtualization and automation, we're able to access the market, incorporate in the US, and we're operating in the US. As a matter of fact, it's a Toronto-based company we acquired, 3 years ago. And we opened up in the US a couple of years ago, and it was very logical for us to do so because 80% of the companies of our clients were in the US to start with. So Fortune 100 to 500 customers that want to get as much insight and optimization on their SAP platform. And over the last 18 months, we've diversified our offering around securing SAP. And that's where, we're focusing on right now is taking, building from that adjacent SAP market and expanding into security. So leveraging our security expertise from our Canadian operations and our US operations around an advanced critical workload, which runs 95% of those critical of operations of those size of customers.
Okay, so thanks, very interesting. And from the coach side, it seems you have choose some kind of a more traditional way of doing international business, having a permanent presence on the ground by hiring staff in the USA. So what's so far, Peter, your return of experience on that specific strategy?
Yeah, no, super. Thank you for inviting us. Before I answer, I just wanted to say I wish I could be there in person in San Antonio, as you've got a long history in the security and information warfare and cyber operations community. So I really love the Riverwalk and I love visiting the Alamo. So can't wait to get down there when all this is over. You're right, Nicolas, having lived and sold in the US and having sold in Canada, buying and selling culture is very different in the US and Canada. And it certainly varies by region as well. So our approach was literally to get people that are in the market, that are comfortable in the market, and hiring folks that have experience talking to the buyers as well. And those cultural reasons are particularly important in security because it's a very sensitive topic when you're discussing on the commercial side on security. It's a little different on the defense side. You've got restrictions on things like citizenship and security clearances, but even on the commercial side, people want to work with folks that they feel are trustworthy and understand, what it is that they're trying to solve. So you need to find those people. So our approach was literally to go find talent, open up a small office, a shared office, and essentially let them go. And we've already got proof of values that have been engaged. We didn't have a team in January, and we've already sort of got engagement with folks. And the good news in sales is we've already had some opportunities where people have said, this is good, but not right now, thank you. Let's have a conversation a little later. So we're expecting our first deals here very, very shortly, but that's been because our US team has been, engaged with those folks and they understand what may in Canada be perceived as an aggressive tactic in terms of scheduling a follow-up, et cetera. In the US, we call it Tuesday, right? It's just a normal way of operating that way. So I found that was particularly important for our success down there, is finding local people who understand those cultural differences.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Peter, and thanks a lot for all of you for your time and generosity at sharing your experience with us all. And I would like also to say, don't hesitate, you people who listen to this to these attendees this morning, to participate into our B2B session at the end of the webinar to ask direct question to our representative from Carillon, Coach, and ESI. So now, to have a better understanding of the San Antonio cybersecurity industry, let's hear Jeff Fair, Vice President of Cybersecurity and Economic Development at the San Antonio Chambers of Commerce. So, hi, Jeff. So I'll let you go.
Bonjour. Good morning. Thank you, Nicholas. Good morning, everyone from San Antonio. What Nicholas said, and I joined the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce relatively recently, but what I have known for a long time is that San Antonio has a unique and vibrant cybersecurity ecosystem. And so what I'd like to do today is just take a few minutes to talk about San Antonio and what cyber and the related tech industry really means to us down here. Next slide. And Pete, that shot of the Riverwalk was for you, just in case you can't make it down soon.
Thank you so much.
So here in San Antonio, a few quick, before we get into the rest of the details, a few quick facts about our ecosystem here. We are the second largest cybersecurity ecosystem in the United States. If you talk to anyone here in San Antonio about our cybersecurity ecosystem, that's the first thing that'll come up. It's a unique ecosystem And it is really fueled by three very big components, and I'll talk about that a little later, but unique in the fact that outside of Washington, D.C., we have the largest federal cybersecurity presence. We have over 100 cybersecurity organizations here in town, and many of them make their San Antonio their headquarters. Texas is a great place to do business, and San Antonio is a friendly and great place to do business. And like Sarah said earlier, we're a great draw for lots of things outside of business concerns, but here it's a business-friendly environment. Here in San Antonio, we also have a lot of innovative efforts in the cybersecurity space and in the tech sector. You're going to hear later from General Guy Walsh, my colleague at the National Security Collaboration Center at the University of Texas, San Antonio. We have just a sampling, both Geekdom and the BuildSec Foundry are two great spaces here in San Antonio that allow cybersecurity startups to blossom and flourish, as well as to collaborate. And I'm going to talk about collaboration a little bit more. The Port of San Antonio is it's a place that we have here after the 1995 base realignment that you may have heard of here in the United States. We had a base realignment where some of the bases across the country were closed or consolidated, which gave us an opportunity to reinvest on one of those bases, and we built the Port of San Antonio. And so in addition to a very vibrant aerospace presence, the port has an amazing cybersecurity and innovative effort that we can talk about a little later. And then finally, just a fact, we have the largest Cyber Patriot teen participation in the United States. Cyber Patriot is a national high school level cyber security competition. And for the last 3 years, we've had teams from San Antonio and our secondary schools place within the top 3 nationally. Next slide. Now, a lot of that was started early. You know, San Antonio did, we kind of did cybersecurity before folks called it cybersecurity. Here at the Chamber, we long held an IT council, and that began to change as the industry began to morph and cybersecurity really started to take hold here in San Antonio. So we moved to a cybersecurity focused council, and then we entered into a collaboration with the county, the local county here, and the city of San Antonio to build the Cybersecurity San Antonio effort. It's kind of the San Antonio version of NSECM, if you will, here just for our local region. And really we convene and we manage the brand, but my personal role is to make sure that we are welcoming and that we bring all sorts of people together so then we can collaborate, realize some real business to business opportunities, grow, expand, and innovate. And finally, originally we were funded by both the county and the city. Now it's just the city, but there may be some changes in the future. So we're very excited for some continued growth. Next slide. And this is just to give you an idea of why our ecosystem is unique. On the left-hand side, you see all of those crests from federal organizations located here in San Antonio. We are headquarters for United States Air Force Cyber Command. We have one of the top 4 locations for the National Security Agency here in San Antonio. We have some presence from our Department of Energy and some of the Department of Energy National Labs, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the U.S. Secret Service. That federal presence and their cybersecurity focus here in San Antonio drives a lot of our business. Now, we have many, many defense contractors here with a presence in San Antonio. Some are looking to actually expand their presence in San Antonio, but we have a vibrant private sector. And you'll hear about that from my colleague, Rich Valdez, here in a moment. But a lot of our companies can bridge both. They can service some contracts with the federal area, but they can also branch out and do some purely private sector things. We have a vibrant nonprofit portion of our cybersecurity ecosystem that looks to enhance and collaborate with startups, to foster them, to help them grow and develop into viable companies. And then on the far right, and you'll hear more about this a little later from Guy Walsh, but we have a strong grouping of universities in our post-secondary education programming, not just at the university level, but also in the trade level that specialize in cybersecurity or have very strong cybersecurity programs. All of that working together make our ecosystem supportive and collaborative. Next slide. One of the things I talked a little bit about is innovation, and I mentioned Geekdom and the BuildSec Foundry, the port. You'll hear more about the National Security Collaboration Center at UTSA, but with so many spaces here that focus on innovative cybersecurity approaches, when we have a place where they can all collaborate, some of those meetings lead to some very niche and promising opportunities, not only for those companies or organizations involved, but for our business community as well. Next slide. And really what I want to talk about is what makes us unique. You could say, okay, you have a lot of federal presence. DC has a lot of federal presence, but DC is not San Antonio, and you're not going to find that level of collaboration and really a mutually supporting community. We do have a group here that's led by one of our federal agencies that's really working on an innovative effort to secure critical infrastructure as a test for across the country. We have the city is building out the Alamo Regional Security Operations Center, the RSOC. They're going to take the lead because San Antonio is much bigger than a lot of the other communities, our surrounding communities. We're going to take a lead on a regional approach to security operations, monitoring, and information sharing. We have, talking about information sharing, we do have a information sharing and analysis organization. It's a very nascent effort right now, but we're beginning to look at how we're going to do that, both with Cybersecurity San Antonio and the city, and how that will grow and support our local community, both in the private and public sector. Talked about some of the companies and investors looking at San Antonio because of some of the incubators that we have, some of the collaborative spaces and the nonprofits operating in our area, seeking to build and grow new starts. We also have a huge concentration of biomedical research here in San Antonio. And if you talk cybersecurity, it's hard to not talk about other tech-related sectors. AI, autonomous vehicles, materials engineering, high-tech manufacturing. A lot of that is here in San Antonio and obviously needs a strong cybersecurity presence. But there's a lot of collaborative but cross-disciplinary efforts here in town. It's very exciting and lead to some very interesting ideas and ways forward. And really, the bottom line is San Antonio is a community of cyber professionals. And it has been really refreshing for me since I've come to San Antonio to understand that everyone here wants to see our community succeed, and for others in the community to grow as they know that that grows the community. So with that, in transitioning and talk a little bit about the private sector, I want to introduce the chair of our Cybersecurity Council here at the Chamber, but also the chair of Cybersecurity San Antonio, Rich Valdez, who is the Chief Technology Officer at IP Secure here in San Antonio.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the introduction. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to meet with you all and kind of go over you know, the great things we've got going on here in San Antonio and IP Secure as well. As Jeff mentioned, I am the CTO here with IP Secure. Been going on about 10 years, and I'll stay here until my boss gets tired of me or I just decide to you know, go live on a beach somewhere. But Just a little bit about IP Secure. So we're a homegrown company. Been in business now going. You can go to the next slide. I'm sorry. So we've been going on about 21 years. So we are a privately owned firm based out of San Antonio, started by my CEO and boss, Mr. Jesse Rodriguez, back during what was called the BRAC, or the base realignment of Kelly Air Force Base. So he used that retirement and that what started off as a negative point in our history to really grow something great here in cyber in San Antonio. Next slide. So IP Secure currently operates in 10 of the existing 50 states, as well as supports global missions worldwide. So we have folks that operate all over the world, Japan, Korea, all over Europe, and wherever there's some of our special missions that we support. Next slide. Our employee infrastructure through the growth, and honestly, this is a lot of this. Why this is key is to show the workforce here in San Antonio. So you keep hearing the same. We want to reiterate that we are the second largest cluster of cyber professionals and IT support functions here in the United States, and that's growing. But it's a very diverse workforce, which you can see here from this slide. Next slide. So IP Secure functions in primarily Department of Defense. Since our inception, we have now started to focus a lot of our efforts outside of Department of Defense, looking at state, local education, and if COVID hadn't hit us last year, we were looking to take our expertise overseas, as well as Canada and Mexico. But as you can see, about 75% of our workforce currently are veterans, and most of those are folks that come here to San Antonio, never leave, and we're able to put them to work in the spaces that we sit. Next slide. And talent profile. So in the past, and if you're familiar with certification programs, a lot of the Department of Defense programs and state or federal programs require that you maintain a certain level of expertise. So on top of higher education, PhDs, masters, bachelors, and those education level, we also are required to maintain all of those certifications, PMPs, CISMs. As well as a company, we have to have the CUI, CMMC certifications that I've heard already mentioned in the conversation. Next slide. So next slide, you can go. So our company portfolio is so primarily cybersecurity services, risk management framework, very high level IT engineering. We are a services company, but we cover all areas within the Department of Defense, federal, and any areas. So we have a very diverse portfolio, but very high level expertise built through our relationships with the city of San Antonio. Next slide. So if you do, and this is something that we can table offline. When you're looking to do work with the Department of Defense, I list this. You see the shields at the bottom. Those are some of the existing organizations that we support here within San Antonio and throughout the United States. When you're looking to do work as a contractor, you're going to have some form of funding. And that's where these contract vehicles or IDIQs, we call them, are beneficial in getting your foot through the door to get the funding and get paid to work with different organizations within the U.S. and Department of Defense. Next slide. So codes and certification. This is all normal small business requirements. You have to self-identify in the expertise that you want to support in IT, whether it be computer science, engineering, or cybersecurity. And now a lot of these actual CAGE and NAICS codes are actually being adjusted to be more specific to cyber initiatives, whereas before we kind of just fell under network support functions or some other form of computer science. They're now actually adjusting these to actually tie directly to some of the expertise that we support in cyber, such as risk vulnerability assessment, offensive, defensive cyber operations, software development, CI/CD pipelines, and things like that. So that's the benefit of understanding this. Next slide. So why pick San Antonio? You can go to the next slide. A lot of our IP Secure's, our effectiveness and growth as a company really is due to the support that we have from the ecosystem. So originally working with the EDF, Alex and her team, Jenna, and the city of San Antonio, Mayor Ron Nuremberg, we were able to procure different incentive grants, grants through the Alamo Community College programs, and all of these grants help nurture not only our growth as a company to invest in ourselves, but also to go identify and work with workforce development to identify those diamonds in the rough, find new talent to introduce to our workspace, but also to just help the community all together. And so through this, if you look at our ecosystem, you have the university programs. Mr. Guy Walsh is on this conversation today. You have the municipalities, the EDF, Bear County, some of the other workforce development, as well as some local companies such as Rackspace. You have the BuildSec Foundry, which is an incubator for a lot of new tech talent. As a gentleman, InfoSite is one of our success stories that came out of San Antonio, supporting a lot of the different areas, as well as some of the other cyber support functions and cluster here in San Antonio. Next slide. So the reason I'm going back to show the NSA 16th Air Force headquarters. So a lot of the cyber industry morphed out of support to our Department of Defense sector, which is second, of course, in the NCR. But now with cyber and IT becoming more of a global issue, and we're able to take what we have been operating in classified spaces for so long to ask for help from a lot of our outside of DoD support functions. So at all levels. And that includes, if you're familiar with the old 5 Eyes terms, so they've made it a lot easier to get support from some of our 5 Eyes and NATO countries, the UK, Canada, and some of the others to get the technology that we need faster to our operators, wherever they may sit, whether it's in the commercial industry, federal, or Department of Defense. So that's the purpose of this slide. Next slide. So once again, I'm gonna harp on it again. The Cybersecurity San Antonio, the organization and the structure of our ecosystem is so strong, and it's easy to get on the phone with somebody here, and you can line up a meeting with all the players and all the folks that want to welcome folks to the city of San Antonio and to our ecosystem to get the help that we need, but also provide support in the areas that you have in Montreal. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Had something pop up. Global engagement. The EDF and the city of San Antonio, Sherry and her team have done a great job of we've had multiple meetings with different organizations from all over the world to try to bridge that gap in technology and get the workforce out there and get the word that San Antonio is open for business and looking for as much talent and to come our way as well as to send your way. And then we have the workforce in both commercial, military, and federal, and the education as far as university programs, local education, certification, technical training to send folks both ways to grow the ecosystem here and also send those folks out wherever they go, and as well as the innovation that you see. There's a much larger emphasis on innovation within not only DoD and commercial, with a lot of the inception of CI/CD pipelines, level up, AFWorks, and all of this is to identify best of breed technology talent to introduce to all the spaces that we sit, no matter where they be. Next slide. So this is our contact information, but I tried to do a condensed, I can get a little wordy, but hopefully I did it within time.
Thanks, Rich. It was very, very, very interesting, honestly. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a chat together in the next coming weeks or days. So now, as we enter the third and last segment of this webinar, I'll invite the Brigadier General Guy Walsh, ex-US Air Force and currently Executive Director of National Security Collaboration Center at the University of Texas in San Antonio. General Walsh, it's an honor for us to have you on board this morning.
Nicholas, again, thank you very much. Thank you for joining. And I look forward especially to what I'll say the dialogue portion of what we do here. We tend to like to be in this transmit mode and do that. But what I do want to do in the few minutes we have here is give you a little bit of perspective. I'm really going to focus on that center word there, the academic and university piece that we do. So we're really about, and the term there of cultivating some of these partnerships is extremely appropriate for what we're doing this morning. So next slide, please. I had the opportunity of serving for about 5 decades, both in uniform and as a civilian back in the DC area. And one of the things that I learned out there very early was just the idea that the partnerships are key there. And one of my last roles at US Cyber Command was to establish our academic outreach partnerships. And when I was doing that, we were selecting 10 universities in addition to the military service academies and a few other ones to really start working with. And this is what caught my eye right here. And that is that right now, if you go online to the nsa.gov website, you will find very simply that there are only 2 universities in the United States right now that have all of those centers of excellence in doing research, in providing education, and in that last one called Cyber Operations Fundamentals, which gets into very complex operations, but only one out of about 275 universities that the NSA was working with at that time. And so one of the things, next slide, please. One of the things that drew me out here was really the idea of the intent of what University of Texas systems. So there's about 12 of our universities under the University of Texas systems, but they decided very specifically that we were going to stand up this National Security Collaboration Center here in San Antonio, based on what you've already heard from Jeff Fair and from Sarah in terms of what we're doing with the military and being Military City USA and Cyber City USA. The 2 key things in terms of our mission and our vision that are really the links here are the idea of developing that cyber-ready workforce and in terms of technical innovation. Next slide, please. So if you look, and Sarah talked about this, in terms of our student population pretty closely reflects what she described in terms of the San Antonio area's population, in terms of the diversity. Next slide, please. And what I will tell you is that in terms of our faculty, we really do reflect the diversity of the United States. So pretty darn close in terms of that reflection. I want to draw your attention to, we talk about diversity, but a lot of it is bringing women into this workforce. And that really is a focus area for us. One of our candidates for the School of Data Science director position recently said it best. He said, there are a lot of universities you can go through in the United States to talk about or do some great research about diversity. But if you really want to do something about it, then UTSA and come to San Antonio is where you want to be. So next slide, please. So recently, and it's great to be able to highlight, we talked about that. So recently we got the Excellencia Award in Education for Hispanic serving institutions. And then just this last week, we were named one of the Future Edge Innovation Award winners. 50 organizations were selected. If you look at that on the right side, UTSA was the only public university that was selected. And if you look at those other folks in the categories there, Verizon, IBM, Intel, Zoom, all in this category. So to be selected in that type of an area was absolutely tremendous. Next slide, please. So this is our new facility, and we're extremely proud, both in terms of location. The city of San Antonio has been able to put us, and you'll see that on the next slide in a few minutes, but that is the San Pedro Creek. For those of you who have already had the opportunity to visit San Antonio, that runs directly parallel to the San Antonio Riverwalk area. And we are within a 10-minute walk to almost anywhere you want to be in San Antonio. The magic about the building, and Jeff and Sarah talked about this, but we're building a security operations center for the university and hopefully for the state of Texas as part of that, working very closely with the Alamo SOC, working very closely. We want that bottom floor to really be what I'll call the visitor center, the front door to Jim Pershbach and the Port San Antonio team, the front door to Lieutenant General Tim Hawk and the 16th Air Force team. So really some of those areas that are just outside of the outskirts of downtown, to be able to drive them to say, here's where you want to go. If you want to visit San Antonio Museum of Technology, you've got to visit Port San Antonio. You want to be part of that ecosystem. The glass part of the building is where our partners are going to be. And I'm going to talk about them in a minute, but really it's all about the education piece. And that's the brown part of that building there. That is where we're housing not just one of our colleges, but we have 3 different of our colleges represented in there, from the College of Engineering, the College of Business, the College of Science, a lot of probably 7 or 8 of our centers and institutes that are doing industrial control system, IoT devices, 5G, and numerous different areas there. So it really is about the magic and being in the heart of downtown San Antonio. Next slide, please. So this is it. So you can see that we are right in the heart of the city. We're right next to the federal courthouse, the new city hall. We're about a 10-minute walk from the tech center, and the area is called Level Up, which is the Air Force's software development center there. Code Up, which is the boot camps that we're providing here, and Geekdom. And then, but it is everything's in walking distance, and this is the growing area in terms of the cultural center that we are very fortunate to be part of. Next slide, please. The magic isn't about the external part of the building, but it's really what goes on inside. And so if you try to differentiate what's different about UTSA and what we're providing, I really think it's that presence that was talked about earlier of a lot of our partners. And it's very broad. You can see we talked a little bit about 16th Air Force and Air Education and Training Command. A lot of the bio and biotech research that's going on includes 59th Medical Wing. But we also have a large presence of our national labs here as well. So we've got Sandia National Labs with a lot of the cyber physical. Idaho National Labs is a tremendous partner, working a lot in the electrical grid in some of those areas there. Obviously, a huge sponsor that we work with is our NSA Texas team. Army Research Labs out of Adelphi, Maryland, has been one of our longest serving partners that are out here. On the right side, you can see that a lot of the different organizations, and you just heard again from our IP Secure team, but we go from the larger organizations such as USAA, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Dell, to a lot of those specific organizations that are supporting the San Antonio community that we have here. And then earlier was alluded to by Jeff in terms of what we do here isn't just about UTSA. We have a tremendous relationship. It's called CERC, but it's really a cybersecurity consortium of all of the colleges here, from Trinity, Incarnate Word, St. Mary's, Law School. And so each of these, and it's great to we always find there, each of these universities has one of those research centers, or I call them the 10Xers, the people who are 10 times better than everybody else in the field that are leading those areas, especially in what I'll call interdisciplinary. So when you go to St. Mary's School of Law, they have someone who understands data science, but has done it in the medical world, in the biotech world. Here, one of my favorite is Professor Hamilton here, who's been a data scientist for 25 years, but he's been 30 years as an anthropologist, and bringing those things together is absolutely tremendous. So it really is about the magic, about the collaboration of the organizations there. What I will tell you is I don't like about this slide is that right now you're not seeing those Canadian partners, and maybe in our 30-minute dialogue, we're going to change that. That's part of our job today. So next slide, please. So these are a couple of centers and institutes that we have within the NSCC, and we can talk about several of these a little bit later. What I want to emphasize really is the fact that about 64 years ago, we figured out that the security of our airspace and airspace systems really were interdependent between Canada and the United States. It was like two rails of a railroad track, right? You can't run on one, you need both. So we established at that time the North American Aerospace Defense Command. And because we realized that, we need to do the same thing in cyber, right? So we need to figure out that it can't be one or the other. We can't draw these borders. We have to be able to partner and build that confidence and the trust that we did with building our NORAD piece of that. So next slide, please. Next slide, we'll skip that one. We have lots of different partnerships that we deal with. Sarah talked about the manufacturing and the biotech world. The Department of Energy established here at UTSA, the Cyber Manufacturing Innovation Institute, or CyManI. And this is really, it's not just about cybersecurity. This is really about bringing manufacturing back to North America. And that's the bottom line on what needs to be done. Is obviously that a lot of it started here in Silicon Valley and is left, but how do we become more economically viable and be able to bring that back to the US? And the Department of Energy and the federal government has entrusted UTSA to put that institute and center there. Next slide, please. We also, the Defense Department has entrusted San Antonio to be the lead for its experimentation and pilot programs on major programs in 5G. One of them is called 5G Core, and the second one is in 5G telehealth and telemedicine. So we're about to kick those off, but for the next 4 to 5 years, San Antonio will be the lead for how the Department of Defense is going to integrate its 5G across the Department of Defense globally. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that electromagnetic defense initiative. We've followed that up with what's called the domestic electromagnetic defense, but really working to say, how do you make your cities more resilient to those worst case type of operations, such as a major solar flare or a nuclear explosion type of thing? So how do we do that? Because again, I'll tell you, if you prepare for those worst cases, some of those technologies will help in what I will call our day-to-day things. For instance, the one that many of you have read about when we suffered here in San Antonio, when we were unable to provide our population here electricity and water for a while. Next slide, please. So that's it. It's all about the ability to do research, education, workforce, partnering with our folks from here in San Antonio and bringing the academic and education piece to that. And I very much look forward to joining in some of the Q&A and some of the dialogue after. So Nicholas, back to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, General Walsh. And we will definitely work together at INSECM to add some Canadian logos on some of your slides pretty soon. So thanks again. Antoine, you exposed sooner today how the academic and research sector in cybersecurity in Montreal is dynamic. We at INSECM were one of the initiators of the very first Quebec cybersecurity innovation program. And we believe strongly it is essential to strengthen the link between the researcher, the cybersecurity practitioner, practitioner and the one who have the needs. So to talk to you more about this, I'm happy to introduce you to Marcel Labelle, Executive Director of cybersécurité, a non-for-profit organization founded about 3 years ago by a large organization from the finance sector who realized the need to mutualize their effort into various cybersecurity innovation projects. So they'll be more effective at the strengthening of their infrastructures. cybersécurité is working closely with the academic sector to make sure innovation project goes on pair with the needs of his members. So I'll invite Marcel to talk to you about that dynamic research and academic ecosystem in Montreal.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Nicolas. Really appreciate it. So I've been in cybersecurity for more than 30 years, and I'm happy to be here this morning. I've been involved in different industries and also was global CISO, so that's great. Let me talk a little bit more about cybersécurité. As Nicolas mentioned, we have major players in cybersecurity in Montreal and in Quebec. We have two of the biggest financial institutions, Desjardins and National Bank. We have Hydro-Québec, which is the biggest power energy in Canada. And we have also in Montreal a critical mass of critical infrastructure, basically. So in cybersécurité, you know, that's important that we do the link between universities also and the industry. And that's why we basically have 4 universities as member of cybersécurité. Just next, sorry. I'm just trying to, okay, perfect. So when you look at the education in Montreal, basically we're #1 in Canada for the research chairs and university labs and university program, basically. So we're looking at 6 different universities that have some basically cybersecurity program. And when you look at some of these universities, they already working with cybersécurité members, you know, hand to hand to develop, I would say, new innovations, basically to advance cyber resiliency. So we're looking at Concordia, who's working with Hydro-Québec, basically Polytechnique, who's working with National Bank, and also Desjardins. So this pairing, this collaboration is already working, basically. So when you look at some of our researchers, you know, maybe it's a well-kept secret, but they are well known in the research, I would say, circle throughout the world. And when you talk about Mourad Debabi, who is in charge of the Concordia program, he has been there for many years, basically, with the top, I would say, education program. José Fernandez is also quite involved in Quebec and in Canada, you know, and is well known in some of the specific industry research. Benoit Dupont, who is really involved with basically the cyber criminology. We know that it's becoming more and more important to look at that aspect as well. So it's just to show you in a nutshell, you know, some of our basically researchers, and we have also some other researchers that are coming from France as an example. So we're able to attract, I would say, some well-known researchers in Montreal. When we're looking basically at the workforce in Montreal, and Antoine alluded to that before, there's over 19,000 workers, you know, in cybersecurity with different kind of skills, because we know that cybersecurity is not only, I would say, a technical domain. You know, we need to bring some other skills as well. So thanks to also Montréal International, our partner, who provided some of these insights. So, and when you look at basically designation of, you know, the people, you know, over 3,000 as a professional designation, you know, in the Greater Montreal, which is provide a pool of talent, basically. So. when we're looking also at this workforce, you can see here that a lot of people have bachelor's degrees, master degree, PhD basically. So you find in Montreal, very higher education people, educated people basically. So that's where you when we're looking at collaboration between the two cities, you can see that there's a lot of talent that we can leverage from each other universities or cities basically. So you can see the different field of these workers. You can see also the different universities that they are coming from. So it's not for that's why Montreal is #1 in terms of research share in Canada, and where we develop there. We're working with other universities also to develop some cybersecurity program, because we understand that there's a lack of resources in the market, and that is important in these days to develop more and more talent. So thanks again, and it's a pleasure to be here to exchange on that and to answer any questions you may have later on.
Thanks a lot, Marcel. That was very interesting. So, and thanks you all for your presentation. It is now the question period. So you are invited to write down your question in the QA box you'll find on the screen. Please make sure that you indicate who you are asking your question to. And also ask Antoine, who had some question to ask, I believe, to other presenter.
Yes, my question was for General Walsh. If you're still online, I would like to give us an overview of how the financing structure is made for the NSCC. Who are the funders, and is it private or partly public?
So so the facility itself that we built here is fully paid for. It was done through the university. It was done through the Board of Regents. We also had specific donors. The one that most of you are familiar with, Mr. Graham Weston, the founder of Rackspace. So again, one of the leads for a lot of the innovation and stuff that has occurred here in San Antonio. So Graham Weston was one of those primary. So that is what I will say was the funding for the facility itself. When it gets into the actual funding, I'll say that's the sustainment of the research and education piece. It's certainly a combination. There's as we build, and the facility broke ground. I'll say the facility broke ground in December this year. We'll be opening in July of 2022. So we're about 16 months away or so. But at that time, there'll be we do some of the funding mostly through what I'll say grants and research. The example is the CIMANI, the Cyber Manufacturing Institute. That is a major grant to stand up that institute. As we look at the possibilities of some of the 5G experimentals and proposals. So we'll be proposing on those to be a research arm on that. So that's a major piece of that. And then a lot of what we do is really working with small innovative companies to bring those up. So one of the things we're heavily involved in that you're familiar with are the CIBRs and more particularly the STTRs, the small business technology transfers that we do. And so we currently have about 6 or 7 of those ongoing this year that were selected. We're waiting for award of those, and that provides those opportunities for these small companies to do the breakthroughs. So there's a whole, what I'll say, a strategic plan, but that hopefully that answers your question on, on our financial approach.
So thank you, General Walsh, again. So, I don't see any written questions so far. So I'll invite you, if you want to add any question, to simply go to our networking session. So please click on the link on the chat box, and you'll have the link on your Zoom email invitation as well also. So I might pass to Dina.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Nicolas, for animating this session today. And thanks as well to all our collaborators, panelists, and attendees who made this cybersecurity industry event between the cities of San Antonio and Montreal possible today. I want to call a very special thanks to Sherry Dalet-Sahi from the Economic Development Department of the City of Antonio for all her efforts in co-organizing this event with us, and the Chamber of Commerce of San Antonio Cybersecurity Council as well. The Business in Tandem is an initiative from the City of Montreal in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce of Metropolitan Montreal. And the next city we will be covering is Tel Aviv on the deep tech industry on May 26th. Now we invite all the attendees to follow us to the optional networking session happening now. You received the link in the chat box, so you are pleased to click on it to join the next session. And in case you click on it, it doesn't work and it closes this window, this link is also available in your Zoom email that you received for the invitation to this event. So you have a little message at the bottom that says, here's the link to the networking session. So we hope you enjoy this event and we wish you all a great day. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you again, Dina. Well done. Nicholas, well done. I'll see you guys over in the next session, the networking session.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.